You are not anxious because something is wrong with you. You're anxious because you are free. Anxiety is not the enemy, it is the most honest signal the self can send you about the magnitude of what you are capable of becoming. Hello, everyone. Welcome back. We have spent the last few videos moving through Kierkegaard's diagnosis of human condition: despair, the aesthetic sphere, the ethical sphere. Today, we arrive at a concept that I think will land with particular force for many of you because it speaks directly to something most of us are living with right now, often without understanding what it actually is. Kierkegaard called it anxiety. But what he means by that word is so different from how we typically use it that I want to take great care today to give you the precise account. Because once you understand anxiety in Kierkegaard's sense, you will never relate to your own anxiety in quite the same way again. So let's get started. In the account of anxiety is explored in much detail by Kierkegaard in a book called The Concept of Anxiety. It was published in 1844 under the pseudonym Vigilius Hofniasis, which translates beautifully as The Watchman of Copenhagen. On the surface, the book is an inquiry into the nature of original sin, but in reality, it is a penetrating philosophical investigation into the nature of human freedom and what it feels like to be a being who is genuinely, inescapably free. The first and most important thing to understand is the distinction between fear and anxiety. These two words are often interchangeably used in ordinary language, but in Kierkegaard framework, they are fundamentally different. Fear has a specific object associated with it. You are afraid of something, a specific threat, a specific outcome, a specific person, or a specific situation. Fear is directed. You know what you are afraid of. And because you know what you are afraid of, you can in principle do something about it. Avoid it, confront it, you can prepare for it, you can do a number of things. Anxiety is entirely different. Anxiety has no specific object associated with it, right? It's in this sense it is entirely different from fear. Kierkegaard says that anxiety is the awareness of freedom itself, the vertiginous awareness that you could become anything, that the future is genuinely open, that no one can choose for you and no one can guarantee the outcome of your choices. Anxiety is what freedom feels like from the inside. He uses an image that I find totally unforgettable. He says anxiety is the dizziness of freedom, which emerges when the spirit looks down into its own possibility. Think about that image. When you stand at the edge of a great hill and look down from the height, something strange happens. You feel not just the fear of falling, you feel the awareness that you could jump. Not that you want to jump, not that you intend to jump, but that you could jump. That nothing is stopping you except your own volition, your own choice. The vertigo, that strange, unsettling awareness of your own freedom at the edge, is precisely what Kierkegaard means by anxiety. It is not the fear of falling, it is the awareness of freedom. In anxiety, we experience what Kierkegaard calls a sympathetic antipathy and an antipathetic sympathy. We are simultaneously drawn toward and repelled by the possibility that confronts us, attracted by the openness of future, terrified by the responsibility That openness entails this double movement, approach and recoil, desire and dread, is the specific texture of anxious experience as Kierkegaard describes it in his framework. Now, here is what makes this account genuinely radical. Kierkegaard is not saying anxiety is a pathological condition that needs to be treated or eliminated. He is saying anxiety is part of the human condition itself. It is the inevitable accompaniment of being a self, a being for whom the future is genuinely open and who must choose, without guarantee, how to inhabit that openness. Animals do not experience anxiety in this sense at all. They experience fear of specific threats. Anxiety in Kierkegaard's account is uniquely human because freedom is uniquely human. To be free is to be anxious. And to try to eliminate anxiety entirely is to try to eliminate freedom, to try to become a thing rather than a person. This has an immediate implication that I want you to sit with, and it is this: the modern world's relationship to anxiety is almost entirely therapeutic and pharmaceutical. Anxiety is treated as a malfunction, a disorder, something to be managed and reduced. And I'm not dismissing the reality of clinical anxiety disorders, which are serious and deserve proper treatment. There are no two ways about it. But Kierkegaard is pointing at something very different: the existential anxiety that is the background condition of a genuinely free human life. And he is saying if you try to eliminate that, you are not healing yourself, you are diminishing yourself in no uncertain terms. Now, let me take this a step further because Kierkegaard has more to say about anxiety, and it is something very important. He distinguishes between anxiety faced honestly and anxiety evaded. When anxiety is faced, when a person genuinely confronts the openness of their own freedom, the groundlessness of existence, the weight of their own choices, it can become, in his words, a school of possibility. It teaches you something that no amount of comfortable certainty can teach. It teaches you who you actually are when there is nothing external to lean on to. But when anxiety is evaded, when it is numbed, distracted, medicated, or buried under the busyness of the aesthetic or ethical life, it does not disappear. It goes underground. And underground it turns into something even worse. Not the productive vertigo of genuine freedom, but the low, persistent dread of a self that has never been fully inhabited and knows it. Whoever has learned to be anxious in the right way has learned the ultimate. These are Kierkegaard's own words, and they are among the most countercultural sentences in all of philosophy. What does it mean to be anxious in the right way? It means allowing anxiety to do what it is designed to do, to reveal the depth of your own freedom, to strip away the false securities of role and routine and distractions, and to confront you with the genuine question of what you are going to do with the life that is irreducibly yours. Anxiety faced honestly does not paralyze, it orients, it points you towards the choices that actually matter, the ones you have been avoiding precisely because they matter so much. Let me bring this discussion now into the contemporary context because the relevance is precise and it's also immediate. We live in what I would call the most anxiety producing civilization in human history. not despite its comfort and security, but partly because of it. When the basic material concerns of life are largely met, when you are not consumed by the daily struggle for survival, the existential question that anxiety is pointing toward have nowhere to hide. The freedom that was always there becomes undeniable. And a culture that has no framework for understanding what that freedom means, that has only the therapeutic language of disorder and the commercial language of distraction, leaves people uh, alone with an anxiety they cannot name and therefore cannot face. Kierkegaard saw this in his own time. He wrote about the present age as one of excessive reflection and apathy, a culture that thinks endlessly but commits to nothing, that is perpetually stimulated but never genuinely moved. He saw the press of his day creating a faceless public spectators who consumed anxiety producing information without the resources to do anything meaningful with it. The parallel to our own world needs no great elaboration. The anxiety epidemic of the 21st century is not, at its root, a medical problem. It's a philosophical one. We have given people infinite freedom and no framework for what freedom is for. And this is generally important because you don't know how to make sense of it. So what does Kierkegaard want us to do with our anxiety? The answer is both simple and yet demanding. He is not asking you to enjoy your anxiety or to pretend it is comfortable, ironically. He's asking you to stop treating it as a problem to be solved and start treating it as a signal to be read, to be understood. Every genuine anxiety, not the social anxiety of what others think of you, not the performance anxiety of whether you will meet the standard, but the deeper, the more formless anxiety that surfaces in the quiet moments, is pointing at something. It is pointing at a freedom you have not yet exercised, a choice you have been avoiding, a depth of self you have not yet inhabited. The question Kierkegaard wants you to ask is not how do I reduce this anxiety? The question is what this anxiety is telling me about what I have not yet chosen. Anxiety is not a wall, it's a door, and the only way through it is not around it, but directly through it, into the freedom that it is guarding. So here is the practical point for this week. The next time you feel that formless, directionless anxiety, not the fear of a specific thing, but the low background dread that surfaces when the distractions fall away, do not reach immediately for something to fill that space. Sit with it for 5 minutes and ask yourself this question honestly. What choice am I not making? What is the thing I know I need to decide that I keep finding ways to postpone? The question will not always have an easy answer. Sometimes it will have no answers at all at the first sitting, but the act of turning toward anxiety rather than from it, of treating it as information rather than interference, is already the movement Kierkegaard is describing. It is already the beginning of what he calls learning to be anxious in the right way. In the next video, we go into one of the most important and practically urgent concepts, the act of choosing as the foundation of true selfhood, and the question of what happens to a self that refuses to choose. Thank you for being here. I will see you in the next one. Bye for now.